Hi, I'm Drex DeFord, a recovering CIO from several large health systems and a longtime cyber advisor and strategist for some of the world's most innovative security companies. And now I'm president of This Week Health's 229 Cyber and Risk community, and this is UnHack the podcast, a mostly plain English, mostly non-technical show about cybersecurity and risk and the people and process and technology making healthcare more secure. And now this episode of UnHack the podcast. Hey everyone, I'm Drex and this is UnHack the podcast. Today I'm really happy to have on the program my good friend Heather Costa. Hey Heather, welcome to the show.
Hi, Drax. So glad to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So by the time this airs, it'll probably be after hymns. So I'll ask you the general question. Well, we'll just talk. How'd you do at Vive? Are you recovering from Vive?
Yeah, I'm still digging through an email box full of many emails. And of course, then there were all the follow-up emails from folks I got to interact with at Vive. So I think it'll probably be sometime next spring before I'm fully recovered, but that's okay. We'll just keep plugging one foot in front of the other.
We were able to hang out a little bit at Vive. You came to the meetup, and then we ran around and hit a few joints after that, and saw a bunch of people. Always a good time. What is your best tip to survive conferences, given that we have a lot of them, and you come and speak at a lot of those conferences and do presentations? What's your best tip for conference goers?
So I think you just have to take it as it comes. It's easy to get overwhelmed with all of the things that are happening, and it's okay to say, no, I'm good. I'm going to go back to the hotel at a reasonable hour
All right.
and go to bed. I'm a little dull and boring in that way. I'm not going to be out and about and hitting every single spot until the crack of dawn. So I think recovery for me is a little bit different than it might be for some others. No shame. Everyone has their own way of doing things.
Don't
I'm
point your
pretty
finger at me.
quiet.
No, you're
I did not. So I'm pretty quiet and I go and interact and then I need to retreat on my own. So I think it's just a
sure.
matter of doing what you know you need to do for your own mental health and sleep patterns.
Yeah. Is this an introvert thing? I work really hard not to be an introvert, but I think I am. And once I do a bunch of these things, I usually need to like nobody talk to me for a while. Sometimes it is. I have to go back to my room and just be like, I don't want to hear from anyone for 10 hours.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it is. Well, and I think that's the definition, right? So often we think about introversion being about being shy or not being able to speak to people or in public, and that really isn't it. It's more about where you're recharged, whether you're recharged in those rooms full of people or whether you're recharged on your own. And for me, I'm definitely recharged on my own. I'll get to a place where I've just reached maximum capacity and I'm overstimulated and I need a break, and it's
You know,
okay to say that.
vibrate your way out of the room and back to your hotel. There's a really logical place for me to start with you. You're at Mayo Clinic. You have an amazing, blows me away background. But let's start with your incredibly original job title and tell me about that and where that came from and talk a little bit about the work that you do now and how you evolve that work from your background.
Sure. So I am the Director of Technology Resilience for Mayo. I was hired originally to be the Director of Disaster Recovery. Those who know me know that I'm sometimes a disruptor and I have ideas about things and will often freely share those ideas if asked. When I came in from the outset, knew that shouldn't be what we were doing. Disaster recovery has historically been about physical disruption. It's been an all or nothing approach to being able to fail over if a meteor hits the data center, for example. And we know that the threat landscape isn't that. Yes, there are physical disruptions that happen. The problem is that more traditional approach to disaster recovery doesn't serve us in the new threat landscape where we're dealing with cyber incidents and cyber attacks and things that require us to look questionably at our data and our backups. Are they available? Are they clean? Those aren't questions that we had to answer in a traditional disaster recovery setting, and that changes everything. So within I'd say a month or two of being with Mayo, I rebranded my organization, my team. So we went from being disaster recovery operations to being technology resilience operations. and my title changed with that to Director of Technology Resilience. And the idea is that it's scalable, one, so it's no longer this all or nothing approach. We're really looking at how we can get one to many benefits in the work that we're doing, that it can serve us for small scale disruption, for things that might be physical disruption, or things that might simply be typical technology. There was an upgrade and the server isn't handling it the right way,
Sometimes that
the
happens.
unplanned downtime, as well as the really bad day
Hmm.
that we don't like to think about, but we have to. If there's a cyber incident, we have to be able to recover from that. And so that's largely been a huge focus on our team and thinking about cyber resilience specifically, because that's the thing that if we can solve for that, the other things will also be solved for. We'll take care
Mhm.
of that one to many benefit. I'm really big on those sorts of things. We have limited resources. Yes, we are Mayo. We still have limited resources. Every
Mhm.
organization does. We have monumental task ahead of us, and you said it in the opening that cybersecurity is patient safety. That's absolutely true. So the job that we do matters and it saves lives. And that's how seriously we take the role. That's how important the work is. And we really are looking at making sure that the things we do to the left of boom mitigate the impacts to the right of boom, no matter what the boom is. I can't always predict the thing that's going to go wrong. I can, though, with fair certainty, say what the impacts of those things are going to be. So if I focus on mitigating the impacts, then the patients, our organization, our caregivers will be better served.
A lot of times the challenge, as I sit down with a lot of CISOs, folks in security, the challenge is figuring out when you're talking to the frontline director or vice president or manager, how do you get them to be involved in this? And a lot of them are like, they use systems, they do great work, they take care of patients or business operations or research, but they know their work, but they don't really know the computer systems. And so sometimes when you're asking them things about business continuity or disaster recovery or resilience, they just have a hard time like figuring out how to speak the language. How do you get them involved and how do you keep them involved? All this work.
So I think the key is to meet people where they are. We don't talk about our work, we talk about their work. I want
Mm,
to understand what they do. I want to understand what they need in order to be successful. And I don't want to only understand it in terms of the technology, but we need to understand it globally when we think about people, process, and technology, because that's the sort of layer of importance around that. No matter how good we are from a technology perspective, it's meaningless without the right leadership, the right people, and the right processes in place. Those things are foundational. And then you layer the technology on top of it to help support those things. So I think that's the key, right? Is that we're not talking about the work that we're doing. We're talking about the work that they're doing,
love that.
identifying at a core what the problem statement is. I don't need them to solve it. I just need to understand what they do and what they need in order to do it. And then from there, we can discern what a reasonable set of solutions or options for solution. And when someone comes to you and says, I need you to implement this thing because this is going to solve my problem, but
Mhm,
you don't understand the actual problem, you
mhm.
will spin around finding a solution for the solution, and you might be looking in complete wrong direction. That's typical sort of root cause analysis
Sure.
work, but getting back to the heart of what is the problem I'm actually trying to solve? And it might have a whole different solution that in that case, this solution I can implement. I have a pathway to implement that. This other thing isn't going to work because I've got this is that's broken and that's broken and they don't understand necessarily, and nor should they have to understand how all of those things are integrated or what it looks like under the hood or behind the wall. I often talk about what's in front of the wall versus what's behind the wall.
Mhm.
When you're at home and you have a lamp that's sitting there, you turn the lamp on, you expect it to light. And that's the end user experience. They push a button, they expect a result to happen.
Yeah.
It's my job to make sure that everything behind the wall is aligned in a way that's going to let them do that, that allows them to push that button or turn that lamp on and get the result that they're looking for.
My brain works in analogies. I will be stealing that one. Let me ask you another question. So hearing you say that and thinking about the work that you're doing, are there times as you go through this resilience work with those frontline operators that you actually find operations improvement opportunities? as a part of the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I think so. And we don't always find it because at the end of the day, it's their work. They're going to know better than I do what the work is and what they need in order to accomplish. I think we find a couple of things. One of the things I love about doing this work is that if we're doing it the right way, it gives us a lens that really don't get in any other part of the organization because you start to see how all of the pieces fit together.
Mhm.
You asked about my background. Prior to Mayo, I was at the Cleveland Clinic and I built
Mhm.
the really the a first of its kind integrated resiliency program for the Cleveland Clinic with an amazing team of just some of the smartest people I know. I get to work still. My team at Mayo is just this amazing team of some of the smartest people I know. I'm awed by them on the daily, and I just happen to get to be the leader of that incredible group of brilliant people, which really is just such a privilege. But I think that when we're looking at this, when we have these conversations with people and we're talking about what the work that they do, it leads to a few things. One, again, we get that sort of 10,000-foot view of the entire organization. You won't find other areas and other departments that have that.
Everything's connected to everything else, and you get to
Every
see
exact.
that whole flow. Yeah.
So that is just fascinating for me, and it light bulbs. It's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about this work. I love it, and it's exciting to me to be able to see that. But the other thing that happens, I think, is that in those conversations, people will have aha moments. So it may not be that we've identified something that is a process improvement, but through that conversation, something will
Mhm.
come up and it'll spark something else. So in that process, you start to see these moments of, wow, there's an opportunity here that we can do something better. Sometimes when we walk through business impact analysis and we start talking about their process, I don't ask them, tell me what applications are important to you. That's not helpful. Everybody believes that their applications are the most important to them.
Right.
And they're not wrong. They're not wrong. But we really have to look at it in terms of organizationally what we're trying to accomplish, our mission, which is the needs of the patient come first. What does this look like for patient care and safety first and foremost? And then how do we align it? One of our physician leaders called it oxygen decisions. And it really is that. So being able to make those decisions with that lens of how everything connects to everything else
Mhm.
changes how you do the work. It changes how you approach the work, and it will change our outcomes for the better for our patients.
I think you and I maybe at some point had an offline, another sort of conversation about this, but the resiliency planning too, it's not like there's a plan and then the plan is executed, right? We've talked about there's a minimum viable sort of product that for day 3, it has to be at least this good. And then for day 7, it gets that much better. And you go on from there. Talk a little bit about that thought process.
Yeah, so and I think that's the departure from disaster recovery to more that resilience conversation,
Yeah.
particularly in cyber situations, because the recovery takes so much longer than just a restoration from backup. On average, you can expect a 5x, right? So if it takes an hour to restore this application or a day to restore this application from backup, that is as like the typical disaster recovery process, times 5 is what you can expect that same application when you think about cyber recovery and like a bare metal rebuild. That's really what you have to plan for. So when you start talking about that, then these numbers of applications, for example, that we had, if we say we have 400 tier one applications. Well, if I have to recover 400 applications, it's not a onesie twosie. I've had a couple of applications that have been impacted by something and I have to recover those, but rather it's the entire list. I need to know that the order in which I'm recovering them matters to the patient, matters to operations, clinical operations, business operations, etc. So you have to really map that very closely and you have to be able to granularly say, this is one, this is two, this is three, instead of these big buckets of these are tier one, these are tier two.
Mhm.
And when you do that, what happens is you create that minimum viable. So you've tied it to the process and you've said, okay, these are the most critical processes for patient care. And these processes sit inside of emergency department, inside of the ICU, whatever those areas are. So here's the most critical areas. Again, patient care and safety first and foremost. Here's the minimum things that they need to be operational to provide some level of care. It won't be the most efficient.
Mhm.
It won't have all of the care enhancing things and all of the sort of bells and whistles that it normally has every day. It's going to be clunky and it's going to require manual process in some of those areas that they're not
Mhm.
used to, which is going to slow them down. So they're not going to be able to do as much as fast. But at minimum, this is what keeps people alive. Now I know that in that tier one, this is the first, second, and third that I have to recover. And in doing that, I've made the emergency department, the ICU, surgery, and anesthesia at least minimally viable that people are going to survive. And we're not going to have that kind of catastrophic impact to patient. And
Yeah.
that's really the heart of doing it. The magic is in the execution, an easy thing to get to, but the
I think a
magic's in
lot of
the
organizations
execution.
definitely struggle with the like what comes up first. There are so many underlying pieces of infrastructure and other, this is a prerequisite to us even being able to think about getting that system up. That whole process that you've taken or you and your team have gone through is a painstaking effort that I think a lot of organizations haven't done yet.
And we're working on it. It's a work in progress.
Sure.
There's no easy path to it. It's not an easy thing for anyone. I
And there
think
are new
sometimes,
systems all the time, right? There's
right,
new
it's
new systems
constantly
and
changing.
change. Yep. Infrastructure upgrades, all that kind of stuff is happening.
So here's another Heatherism. It's a program, not a project. We'll never put a pin in it and call it done. So we
Nice.
have to be on that path of continuous improvement. My analogy is always getting the nickels. It works if you're a football fan or not. Two nickels will get you a first down, or nickels will get you quarters, and quarters will get you dollars, right? So it's that path of continuous improvement, and you have to start. I think that's one of the challenges in healthcare. We want to make sure that's right. We almost want perfection.
Mhm.
And if there's anything I've learned, there's no perfection in this work. It will be continuous improvement, and we have to be okay with that.
Yeah. Now you're speaking my language. Hey, a couple of other things here, random, tied to this work though. What's your favorite metric? What metric do you like to look at often to see are you on the continuous perform? Are you collecting nickels that you think you're collecting?
So we have part of the strategy that we built out here are these building blocks of resilience. So I've got 6 or 7 big bucket things, recovery metrics, time to recover, not just the objectives of what the business is saying they're needing, but
Mhm.
how well are we doing in meeting those? What does the actual look like compared to the objective? Training and awareness and exercising. That's one building block. Governance, having strong, again, people process is critical before you layer any technology on top of it. If you want any effectiveness in the technology, you have to find the right tools to meet your process needs. You can't do the inverse. And I think that's one of the challenges that a lot of organizations have is they sometimes try to do the inverse. They find the tool and then they try to build the process around the tool, which is something we just simply won't do. It's not effective in my
Yeah.
estimation. So governance, roles and responsibilities, recovery, data resilience, and education awareness. I think that's it. I think those are the 5. I have them written
I know
down
some
so
are
that I
like,
don't have
am
to
I
remember.
missing some?
And we look at metrics in 2 different ways. So we look at the binary. Is it there or is it not?
Mhm.
Planning is the other one. Is it there or is it not? Do we have plans or not? Yes or no? And then the maturity happens with what's the quality of those plans.
Oh,
So, right. So you have to look at, all right, we have plans, but are they complete? Do they have all the components? And we start to be able to validate the accuracy of those plans through the testing and validation. So all of the blocks fit together. And I think that's really the understanding that there's not one metric that's going to tell the story. It really is these different building blocks that create resilience and looking at the metrics in more than one way. When we think about recovery testing, it cannot be simply did we recover it or not,
mm,
or did we recover it within the time frame or not. We have to go further than that and look at what we recovered in this test. What does that look like in the next test? Did did we improve some areas? Maybe we haven't gotten it again perfect just yet, but did we shorten the recovery time actuals? Maybe we were an hour off and now we're half an hour off. That needs to be a marker of improvement.
okay.
And
So
that
you're
needs to be our
regularly
metric
measuring
instead.
yourself against yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's super important. The ultimate marker of whether we're resilient or not is how much our caregivers and our patients feel it when there's a disruption. So if I can lessen the ultimate sort of goal, lessening that impact, if we've had a disruption and they don't even know it, then golly, we're resilient.
Yeah, that is the epitome of the idea there that you can have an incident, but to your end users, it feels like nothing actually happened. There may have been a lot of stuff going on in the background, but to them, it feels like nothing ever happened. To patients, they never get delayed or rescheduled or whatever. Then
And
you're really hitting it.
that's our ultimate metric.
Yeah. We've only got a couple of minutes left. We'll do a couple lightning round questions. These are things that just let people get to know you a little bit better. Are you ready?
I'm ready, I think.
I know it's nerve wracking. What's a really unusual thing that you have or a thing that you love? And this might be a habit or a tip or a trick. What's one of your super favorite things?
Fun fact, I like limited edition Oreos and soda.
Okay, you got to tell me more about that.
They get the limited edition. I'm a sucker for marketing. So every time there's a limited edition Oreo, they did a Coca-Cola flavor, like a Coca-Cola collab and an Oreo. I have to get it and try it.
I love that. It's so
They do the
good.
same thing with sodas, like strawberries and cream Dr. Pepper or just limited edition.
It's
Did you
like, I'll
know
try
there's a
that.
mango Pepsi?
No, I did not know
You
that.
see? The more, and I'm
Do
not even a big soda drinker, or I don't even really eat a lot of the Oreos. Mostly I get them, I try it, and then the kids,
pass them on to somebody else. Yeah.
yeah, the kids will finish them, but it's a thing.
Do you think you get these opportunities because you're in the Midwest and that's one of those marketing places where they try like
It
all their
might
crazy
be.
new ideas? It's like
It
you
might
should
be.
be living there. That's why.
Well, maybe so, but Amazon, you can just buy
Oh, that's
them.
true. It's totally true.
We are so interconnected now. Anybody could get them. Anyone can
Yeah.
partake in limited edition Oreos and soda.
Yeah. Well, oh, here's another question. Some young people, not that I'm trying to change the subject, but some young people who are trying to get into healthcare cyber, or lots of people probably who are
Ooh,
trying to get into healthcare cyber. What's the advice they get from people that you hear and you're just like, that's terrible advice?
you have to start at the help desk
That's terrible advice. Why is that?
because the work that we do is so diverse. There's just such diversity in the work. When you say cybersecurity, so often people fix something in their minds
Yes.
that it's only one thing. And cybersecurity is so many different things. There's so many different facets to it. And it requires, if we're doing it well, it's going to require diversity of thought and experience and expertise. And there's nothing wrong with coming up through the help desk. There's nothing wrong with having a background that started and grew out of strictly IT work, but that's one facet of a
Yes.
multifaceted discipline. There are transferable skills, critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, logistics, particularly in this work that we're doing. Those are things that we're all thinking about. And those skills can be acquired in the military. They can be acquired in parenting. They can be acquired in a lot of different places and different ways. And I think that cybersecurity in general, healthcare cybersecurity is made better by that diversity of thought and experience. And that's what will make us successful and experts in
It's
this
so
job.
funny. I love that. That's a great pitch to folks too. Some of the best project managers and cybersecurity people I've ever known at some point were bartenders because there's a lot of juggling lots of different things and knowing a lot of different formulas for stuff and being able to handle different issues and challenges. So I've seen that. I've seen them come from like great lawyers, have become great cybersecurity pros. Again, it's just something in the way that people think. So I really like that. Okay, here's one more thing. What's one thing that you've changed your mind about recently?
I'm not sure if there's any, I change my mind a lot because of new information. I don't
Uh-huh.
know that I can name one simple thing. It's often an evolution,
Mhm.
right? I think, and I don't think there's just like a snap change in thinking. I think most of it is an evolution where here's where I am and I've thought about this thing and now I need to think through, oh, I've got new information. And that's again that continuous improvement. If we're stuck and unwilling to change our thinking, then this is not the job for you. This is not the profession for you. This everything is changing so quickly. Maybe AI a little bit. I think when AI first was really rising to the top as a buzzword, I'm like, It makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. The
Sure.
idea of cybersecurity risks and those sorts of things that will happen with AI, I was sort of like, I don't think I want to go down that road. I think we should stay away from it. I use it regularly now for a lot of things. And I think just like any emerging technology, it has a place where it's beneficial and helpful. But again, it has to be layered on the right leadership and the right process and in an ethical way that ensures that we're not creating risks and problems unnecessarily.
Hey, thanks for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. I have another 100 questions. I hope you'll come back at some point down the
Of
road.
course.
I know I'm going to see you at a summit somewhere down the road too. But yeah, you and I have had conversations before, and the more I talk to you, the more things I think that I probably have never thought about. I'm really glad you're on the show today.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. And yes, we can always catch a conversation, and I always learn stuff from you, and I'm appreciative of that.
That's a wrap for this episode of Unhack the Podcast. Do me a favor and share this episode with your peers. And by the way, your feedback matters. So please subscribe and rate and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm your host, Drex DeFord. Thanks for spending some time with me today. And that's it for Unhack the Podcast. As always, stay a little paranoid. I'll see you around campus.